Thank you. Sandra?
All right, let's bring in former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Welcome to you, sir. Good to have you on the program today.
Thank you.
First up, your reaction to the Biden campaign drawing what they see as a very stark contrast between the two candidates.
You know, the only thing that Biden campaign had an advantage on was money, and now they just failed at that. And what we see early on from people, those who didn't support Trump realize that this whole trial would have never happened had he not ran for president. The DA passed on it, the DOJ passed on it, the FEC passed on it. So they know it's trumped up in the idea that it's going after a political opponent. Lots of times when that happens in world history is you create a movement on the other side and it comes back to bite you. And I think that's exactly what the Biden is seeing happening to them now.
So as we look toward November and what might happen on the Republican side, they could do pretty well in the Senate, because Democrats are defending in a lot more seats than Republicans are. They've also got a very strong candidate in the state of Maryland in the form of Larry Hogan, the former governor. Yet, while the RNC says it's still behind Hogan, the Trump campaign is on the warpath against him. Well, why would you try to take out Larry Hogan when he could be one of your best bets for flipping control of the Senate?
If you want to win the Senate, you want to be on offense. You want to expand the playing field. If Larry Hogan was not running in Maryland, it wouldn't even be a contest. You want Democrats to have to spend money there. I think people should take a deep breath, actually reread what Larry Hogan said in the process. It wasn't an anti-Trump comment.
No, he said we should respect the jury's verdict.
Okay, and as he moves forward. But the one thing I would look at from this is you want Larry Hogan going through. He has proven that he can win in that state, two-term governor. He is a conservative in the process. And if you want to win the Senate, you got to be playing in all these states.
I mean, there's an old adage in politics that winning's not the most important thing. It's the only thing. but if you reduce your chances of that.
For the last two cycles, the Republicans have lost in the Senate. In the House, we won both cycles. When people thought, and when you think about it, we lost the presidency, the Senate, 2 cycles, we lost governors, we lost legislators. The only place we did win was in the House. And even though everybody predicted we would lose 15 seats, we beat 15 Democrats. Then we won again. We might not have won as big as everybody wants, but all the other Republicans lost. We were still able to win.
Okay, so when it comes to the former president's conviction, though, Mr. Speaker, our White House team is reporting, as you just heard there, Democrats are urging Biden to lean into Trump's conviction. I mean, all along as this trial carried on, Republicans were saying this is only working for him, and also noting the fundraising that we saw after the guilty verdict. So which is it? Is this going to help or hurt the president for his re-election campaign?
I think time will tell. The early answer right now is it is helping him. It's firing up the base. And the one thing you always want in an election, you could take what other poll, it's who shows up. The intensity to vote for Trump is stronger than the intensity to vote for Biden. And this election is really not about Trump, it's about Biden. Do you want 4 more years? And if I was the Biden family, I would be very leery of going after somebody about a convicted felon when you have your own son going to trial right now. And it's not just the son. It might be about a gun, but you're going to get into the money, and did any of that money flow to the rest of the family? So you could be an unconvicted felon inside the Biden family. So I would be really leery of casting that other, because this is something much different. When it comes to President Trump, this is a case that never should have taken place. This is beyond the statute of limitations. This is a judge that didn't get randomly selected, was picked. And I think on appeal, this thing would be thrown out.
You know, you talk about this firing up the base, but I've talked to people, and I don't really know what their politics are, but they say they've never made a political donation in their life until this verdict came down, and they found it so distasteful that they said, I've got to contribute. They contributed to the Trump
I have never seen Win Red get shut down.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you this, though, because it seems as though a lot of Democrats are distancing themselves from Joe Biden as his poll numbers continue to tank. Axios quoted some anonymous Democrats who said, more distancing now as his numbers continue to tank, pretty much washing my hands of his campaign. Another Democrat said, always an element where you run your own race. Now it's even more pronounced, given the president's weakness. You know, you hope when you're in a presidential election year that the top of the ticket has got coattails that go all the way down ballot. But now you got the down ballot races saying we want nothing to do with the top of the ticket.
Exactly. You would want the power of the presidency to come in for you. No one's inviting Biden to come in to campaign for him. And the thing that you have found as well privately, when you talk to these Democrats, the number one topic would be, could we change him out and put somebody else in? That is a bad sign for him. And remember, Biden only won by 48,918 votes. And his favorability rating at that time was +10. It's now -20. And if you look at current polls, the NPR polled independents. And they say by a 53 to 42, 4 more years of Biden is a greater threat to democracy. And then when you look at the CNN poll that says, was Trump's 4 years positive? 55% of America says yes. And if they compare that to what they're looking at now, no president at this time has ever had this low of rating as President Biden does. And they're expanding the playing field. You look at Virginia, New Hampshire, and Minnesota, those are states that are up in play. That's a bad position for Democrats to be in.
But when they're pushed to embrace the sitting president for their party, they talk about 15 million jobs created, right? They talk about capping the price of insulin at $35, making healthcare more affordable than ever for the American people. They call it a record of historic results for the American people. They said that's what people across this country want. That was a Biden spokesperson quoted in that Axios piece. What he added, that I'll get you to respond to, Mr. Speaker, is he said Republicans are stuck defending Trump's promises to cut taxes for the billionaires at the expense of the middle class and ban abortion nationwide. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'll tell you, those comments that you just said about Biden at the beginning, no one in America is saying that outside of the White House. They're talking about the high cost of food. They're talking about the gasoline cost. They're talking about the border. The border is the number one issue out there. They're talking about crime. Every advantage in these policies is leaning towards President Trump. And I will tell you, if 55% of America thinks Trump's policies were better, that's a bad position to be in. And I'd rather be in Trump's position right now, even coming out of that trial, than I would with Biden. This election is going to be based upon, can you secure the border? Who gives you better economic hope? These are the number one things people are talking about. Abortion can be an issue. That's the only, I think, that the Democrats have a little movement up, but it's in pockets. Remember, abortion was a bigger issue in the last election. And in those 2 cycles, I won 5 more seats in California and 5 in New York. These are the bluest states out there. So how strong was it?
Mr. Speaker, it's good to catch up with you again. Thanks
for having me in studio.
Really appreciate it. We'll have to do it more.
All right. Thank you.